Chairman Thompson, thank you so much for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you this morning. This is the first time I have appeared before a congressional committee, and it's great to see that there are so many fellow Texans and Michiganders on the subcommittees. I would like to take a moment before turning to the substance of my remarks to publicly thank Chairwoman Slotkin for her kind introduction and even more for her thoughtful outreach to my family during and after that traumatic day. I know it was a source of great comfort. I believe and often teach that Judaism is filled with contradictions because life is filled with contradictions. Today, I'm filled with mixed and even contradictory emotions. On the one hand, I am truly horrified that in our society today, religious leaders must devote themselves to security training. How to harden our facilities is both a necessary conversation and anathema to religious ideals of hospitality and loving the stranger. At the same time, I'm filled with gratitude. I'm grateful to be here. To be honest, I'm grateful to be anywhere. I'm so grateful that 6 years ago, almost to the day, I attended the Faith-Based Security Summit that was hosted by the FBI, Homeland Security, and our region's U.S. Attorney's Office. It was my first education related to active shooters, and the first time I was introduced to the concept of a security committee. Since then, I've participated in about a half dozen different security workshops offered by the FBI, the ADL, Colleyville Police, and the Secure Communities Network. Those sessions helped me to stay alert, look for an opportunity, and gave me the courage to act when I needed to. I am so grateful that just a few months after the Security Summit, our congregation formed our first security subcommittee. Their work was responsible for numerous physical security enhancements, educational sessions, and the development of our security action plan. They built a strong relationship between the Colleyville PD and Congregation Beth Israel. The police officers who were at CBI that day knew our building and knew us. All of their work made a dramatic difference. I'm so grateful for the financial support of our members, Tarrant County's Jewish Federation, and the nonprofit security grant program that made our security plans possible. That included upgrading our security cameras, which was critical to law enforcement. Matthew DeSarno, special agent in charge of the FBI's Dallas field office, has said that the video coverage gave the decision makers, the negotiators, and others general situational and awareness. As grateful as I am for the support and funding under the Nonprofit Security Grant Act, my understanding is that the funding is not at a level where it can meet the urgent needs of the communities it was created to protect. Every congregation needs to be prepared, yet the gap between the need and funding is profound. In 2021, fewer than half the Nonprofit Security Grant Program applications were approved. Further complicating the situation, it's also my understanding that if an institution does not receive much needed security grants, there's no indication of where their application fell short. Without feedback, it's impossible to improve the application for the future. That's disheartening at a time when religious institutions need reassurance and support. Perhaps FEMA or the appropriate agency could be required to provide some type of response to a grant application. I know that would impose an additional burden, which would need to be alleviated by additional funding. And in small congregations, we face special challenges in dealing with government grants. We have 2 paid staff, a part-time administrative assistant, and myself. Almost all the work of running our congregation is done by our members as volunteers. Perhaps just as the IRS provides short forms for small organizations, FEMA and other agencies could do the same here or find another way to lower the barriers for smaller congregations. On the morning of January 15th, when the gunman arrived, it was me and 1 volunteer in the building. I was running late. I was finishing my preparations for the Torah reading, organizing the online setup, checking sound, and in the midst of trying to do a million different things, I had a stranger come to the door. I have, of course, thought about that moment a great deal. I welcomed a terrorist into my congregation. I live with that responsibility. And it's important for you to understand that this was not a matter of me opening the door just because I value hospitality. I do value hospitality. The Torah scroll that we read from each week was gifted to our congregation thanks to hospitality. I strive to live that value every day. Like so many congregations of all backgrounds, CBI strives to be a house of prayer for all people. At the same time, I also value security. In a small congregation, I'm rabbi, in tech support, and gatekeeper. When our member asked if I knew the person at the door, I was distracted, but I still did a visual inspection, and after a brief word, he appeared to be who he said he was, a guy who spent a night outside in sub 40-degree weather. But that was just the first analysis, yes. I served him tea. I also spoke with him throughout the process to learn his story. Who was he? How did he get to CBI? Such conversation is welcoming, and it gave me an opportunity to see if he was acting nervous or if his story added up. Security and hospitality can go hand in hand. I was running late, but I spent time to see if there were any red flags, and I didn't see any. Of course, I was wrong. I share this because despite all the plans and funding and courses, I still opened the door. But because of all the plans and funding and courses, and literally dozens of small things that just happened to go our way, we were able to escape. And right now, there are far too many houses of worship that are just beginning the process we started 6 years ago. Right now, there are far too many houses of worship that have developed plans and are counting on the Nonprofit Security Grant Program to put them in place and help them feel more secure in their spiritual home. Right now, there are far too many houses of worship that won't get the support they need, especially small congregations. Tragically, we live in a world where all houses of worship need protection. All of us need protection. And I believe that both Democrats and Republicans desperately want to change that reality. Changing our reality all at once is too much. That's why Rabbi Tarfon reminds us in Pirkei Avot that we aren't obligated to complete the work, but we cannot neglect it. I'm not asking to fix everything, but increasing funding for and making appropriate adjustments to the Nonprofit Security Grant Program, the kinds of recommendations that Mr. Fingerhut will be testing